It is certainly great to be here. It's great to see everyone. And I really hope that you are excited to be here to worship God this morning. Let's go to Romans chapter 6. You know, just in case you're not aware of it, the World Cup is going on right now. And it's been a very interesting World Cup. I had to check with my brother Clever there if his heart was still beating after Brazil passed through the eye of a needle yesterday to make it to the next round. However, no one can argue that the highlight of this year's World Cup has not been football, but rather someone's diet, Luis Suarez. Now, when he played in Holland for Ajax, he bit someone. And Liverpool, he repeated it, and he decided, I gotta taste the flavor on another continent. So he did it in South America. And of course, everyone knew that what he did could not be accepted except for the people in Uruguay. Because he's their best player. But here's the most fascinating thing about this whole happening. After he was banned by FIFA for 9 international games, excluding him for the rest of the World Cup, and that he wasn't even allowed to approach a stadium for 4 months, the Uruguayan Association went into appeal. And what was their argument? Suarez said, I didn't bite him, I fell on him with my teeth. And those left the marks on the back of his shoulder. Come on. You know, that kind of reminds me of Aaron and the golden calf. Moses came and confronted him. It's like, well, we got this druid together, we put it in the oven, and oops, I'll kill this calf. So appropriately in that same spirit, the title of today's message is, what are you sinking your teeth into? What are you sinking your teeth into? Throughout life, you know, the truth is we all sink our teeth into something, don't we? Yes. We are all passionate about something. Some people are passionate about doing absolutely nothing with their time. They're passionate about that. Some people are passionate about their football team. Yes. Now don't be ashamed. Which one of you here supports Liverpool? Okay. I can accept that as long as you don't support Suarez. We can live with that. And the Bible tells us the same thing, that everyone is passionate about something. But in different words. Romans chapter 6, verse 16. You guys with me? Yeah. Don't you know that when you offer yourselves to someone to obey him as slaves, you are slaves to the one whom you obey? Whether you are slaves to sin, which leads to death, or to obedience, which leads to righteousness. We are all passionate, or rather we are all slaves to something. The question this morning is, what are you a slave to? What am I a slave to? Jesus was a slave to his Father. Consumed, controlled, passionate, focused, dedicated, uncompromisingly to the will of his Father. Other people have the same conviction about the opposite. The question is, where are we this morning? Because every one of us is passionate about something, aren't we? Yes. No one can tell me they're not passionate about anything whatsoever. That person simply does not exist. Maybe you're not in touch with reality, but we're all passionate about something. Well, this morning, God is calling us to be passionate about Him. And Him also. Now, yesterday when Chile lost after the penalty kicks, the players, you could see they were just completely heartbroken. It's like a family member had passed away. I remember in like 6-7 years ago being in Maracanã in the final of the Copa Libertadores, which is the equal of the Champions League here in Europe, and I saw Fluminense play against Liga de Quito, I don't remember the name, but Fluminense lost on penalties. And some people were crying like the foundation of their life had just been taken away. I confess that that used to be me. When I was studying the Bible in 1990, and yes, I'm over 25 years old. When I was studying the Bible in 1990, in the States, in Philadelphia, they asked me about coming to church the following day on Sunday. Now, church at the time was 3 in the afternoon in Philadelphia. And on that day, there were 2 games. Brazil against Argentina, and Holland against Germany. So when they asked me to come to church, I was like, these people are such ignorant Americans. Asking me to go to church while the World Cup is going on? What is wrong with them? They have no life? Well, true to my conviction, I didn't go to church. In the morning, Brazil got eliminated. I was hoping Brazil would win. In the afternoon, Holland got eliminated. I was hoping Holland would win. And for the next couple of nights, I could not sleep. Thinking about the World Cup. In distress. Heartbroken, hopeless. Why do I need to live any longer? The truth is, I should have gone to church to pray for them, but instead I decided to just watch the game. Jesus was completely controlled by the Father. Let's go to John chapter 16. You know, now, by the way, I've repented of that, you know what I mean? Today there are World Cup games. Even if church was at 3 in the afternoon, I would be here. Now I ask you not to test me on that, just to believe me by my word. That's where my heart and my convictions are at. John chapter 16, Jesus is about to be crucified, having the last words here with his disciples. And he's telling them in verse 33, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So the question this morning is, how do we overcome the world? How do we do it? Do we have to be like the Crusaders and fight everyone else who doesn't agree? Obviously, that is not an example that Jesus left for us. Yeah. He overcame the world in a completely different way. See, he really overcame the world in a manner that the world does not understand. How do we overcome? How did Jesus overcome? Good question. Does anyone have an answer? How did Jesus overcome the world? Jappy, you're going like this?
Focus on God.
Focus on God? Okay.
Prayer.
What else?
His death on the cross, he conquered the world.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
Prayer.
Prayer. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 5. See, here's the thing. Anybody ever been to the gym? Yeah? A long time ago? Probably beginning of the year. And by the end of February, you were no longer, the membership was still running, but you were no longer using the membership. Something in that direction. See, if you were to go to the gym, or if you set yourself a goal, you gotta practice to reach it, don't you?
Yes.
I want to lose 20 kilos. I'm not going to eat it tomorrow. When I wake up, I'm going to be 20 kilos lighter. Doesn't work like that. I want to go to the gym. I want to lift 100 kilos. Good luck trying that the very first time. And I hope you survive. But you go daily, day by day, consistently, step by step, and within a certain period of time, you will reach your goal. And that's how it went with Jesus. See, Jesus was born with his biological weaknesses. You know, we all have certain tendencies. Someone has a tendency to be lazy. Someone has a tendency to be arrogant. Someone has a tendency to be timid. And a lot of times your strength is also your weakness. Someone is extremely bold and courageous, but at the same time, if they're not careful, they can be harsh. Someone can be very in tune and very sensitive, but at the same time, they can be sentimental. So Jesus was born with all of that we're born with, but there's one huge difference between Jesus and ourselves. We find that in Hebrews chapter 5, verse 7. During the days of Jesus' life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions with loud cries and tears to the one who could save him from death. And he was heard because of his reverent submission. Although he was a son, he learned obedience from what he suffered. And once made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him, and was designated by God to be high priest in the order of Melchizedek. So was Jesus born perfect? Was he born ready-made, just add water, ding, he's overcoming the world? No. Were we born like that? Absolutely not. Were we like that when we got baptized? Absolutely not. But Jesus was put through different circumstances in life. Primarily suffering, challenges he had to overcome. And because he took on each one of those little challenges, perhaps every challenge he overcame, he was a step closer to being able to overcome the world. Well, we oftentimes run from suffering. Well, we oftentimes, as is commonly believed by people, that God is here to rescue us, to save us, to make life easy, to get us out of financial problems. Jesus embraced life's challenges. Because he realized that those challenges had a purpose, they had a meaning. They were not just random, empty, meaningless challenges to make life miserable. They had a purpose for him to overcome the world, so that in turn we could imitate him and overcome the world. How are we dealing with challenges that we have? Do we run from them? Or do we embrace them? Easier said than done, but nonetheless, that was the formula for Jesus to become the author and perfecter of our faith. So needless to say, if we are called to follow Jesus, what is going to happen to us? What are we going to be faced with? The same challenges Jesus was faced with. And every time we decide not to run, but to confront and to overcome, we'll be a little bit more like Christ. See, we got to sink our teeth into God's purpose for our lives. We got to understand that everything has meaning, has purpose. And if we embrace that, we are fulfilling God's purpose for our life. You know, I had a very interesting experience on the bus Thursday night on my way to Bible Talk. I was in the bus with a friend of mine who was going to Bible Talk with me. And we were talking about the World Cup. We said, hey, you know, Portugal has been eliminated. And a guy happened to sit down and he said, really? So we started talking about the World Cup. And then I gave him an invitation to church. He looked at it and he said, I'm a Muslim. And I answered, well, that doesn't mean you can come. You can come. You can still come. And then he asked me, do you believe Jesus was the Son of God? I said, yes. And that's where his face completely changed. He said, you know what? Take this back. He gave me the invitation. And he started becoming very abusive and obscene. Non-stop. It felt like half an hour. But I think it was like 10-15 minutes. He was cursing, calling me names, but very, very loud. With Kiara sitting next to me, insulting me. And I said, okay, I have a couple of options here. I could choke him. But that's not Christ. That is the Old Testament, but it's not very Christ-like. You know, there are times you kind of wish you lived under the Old Covenant, you know what I mean? I could insult him back. That wouldn't be Christ-like either. And, you know, I was starting to get really heated inside because the guy just said, you know what, I'm a very ignorant man. He said about himself. And I started saying, you know what, you said you're an ignorant man. And my friend's like, yes, I'm supposed to be the disciple. You come with me to Bible Talk, I'm supposed to be the example. So I said, okay, I'm just going to sit here, let him say whatever he wants to say. But as the abuse increased and the words became more and more obscene and, you know, very loud. You know how it is when there's a commotion on the bus. Everyone looks around. And turns their head. You know? So everyone's head turning back and I'm straight there because I was sitting all the way in the back of the bus. And so when it became too abusive, I said, you know, TR, let's go downstairs. So as I left, he was like, good thing you're going. You're a this, you're a that. I'm insulting you in front of your daughter, you know, like being really tough and stuff. And I was like, well, I really got to be Christ-like. I just went downstairs. And here's the really funny thing. As I went downstairs, and I was standing there because the bus was pretty full, the people that were on the upper story started coming down to leave the bus. And then when they were afraid from the guy, they started encouraging me. One guy said, don't be discouraged. I was like, I wish you could have told me that upstairs. You know, another Rasta man comes down with the long hair, and he starts, when he's downstairs, all of a sudden the guy, you see the Father through the Son. I was like, well, these people are being really courageous, away from all the action, and now they're whispering, don't be discouraged. And being all bold and sensitive. And when the guy came downstairs to get off the bus, he threw some more insults. I just went like this. And he left. But you know, everyone in the bus was looking at me. Everyone. Some were like, wow. Perhaps admiring what I did or what I did not do. Others were like, this guy's crazy. Looking at me like, look at him just sitting there, he didn't do anything. But see, the world fights very differently from how we as disciples fight. You know, I was tempted to do a lot of things that God prohibits. But thank God I was able to overcome that instance. Now it wasn't completely done yet, because the next morning when I woke up, I was going back, I was like, man, if all the feelings start, and the emotions start coming back, I was like, no, you're a disciple of Christ. This is not how we overcome the world. We don't fight with the weapons of this world. But see, these things, they happen, and we got to embrace them, and we've got to overcome. So we can grow and become more Christ-like. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 12. You know, these last months, I haven't been having much luck when it comes to bus stops and buses. Because about 2 months ago, I was with my brother Rob at a bus stop by Golders Green, on our way to meet with Leonard, to study with Leonard. We were just standing there minding our own business, getting ready to go on the bus. And as we were waiting in line to go on the bus, these two other guys tried to get on, and they were having a major argument. I don't know how it happened, how it started. All I know is these guys were not liking each other very much. And one of the guys gets off the bus. They almost got in a fight. One of the guys gets off the bus and starts calling the guy that stayed on the bus all the things that the Muslim guy called me Thursday, which, needless to say, will not be good for me to repeat here in church on Sunday morning. So the guy keeps walking away, but then he picks up a bottle and throws the bottle. And again, it was maybe half a second, but it just looked like slow motion. Boinks! Right on Rob's head. I see Rob going to the floor. First I was like, man, Rob, that bottle, man, it was coming from a mile away. How come you didn't duck? That was my first reaction. But later he explained that he wasn't looking that way. I said, oh, okay, well, I can understand. So I'm getting really upset now because this bottle hit my brother. So I start walking towards the guy. The guy sees me, he starts running. He starts running away. And I run after him. But he had about a 50-meter, what do you call it? Start already. And so I said, no, I can't take this. I'm going to run. I saw that people were taking care of Rob. I said, okay, I'll take care of this guy. So I started running after him. And he was pretty fast, but I also have my speed. However, my long legs. However, he was pretty far ahead of me. And you know, after a while, after we turned the corner by about Starbucks, by Golders Green, I was like, I got a great insight. I said, this guy looks like he's 25. I'm about to be 45. What are the odds that I can catch this guy? I said, okay. Let's put it aside. Let me go back and see how Rob is doing. So I go back, Rob is there on the floor, his head is all bleeding and everything. We call the police, we call the ambulance, and you know, meanwhile, I'm thinking, man, why didn't I start running earlier? Why did I wait so long to go after this guy? I could have had him when I was standing right next to him. But I'm happy I didn't get a hold of him.
Yeah.
For his sake and for my sake. But you know what? Rob is my brother. You've got to sink your teeth, not into your brother, but into the love for your brother and sister. You've got to lay down your life. That's what we are called to do. Now, I've thought of a new name for Rob. From now on, I'm going to call him Bus Stop Rob. You know, I want to commend some people among us that I feel like, in spite of the obstacles, in spite of the hard times, they have remained faithful to God. They have overcome, and because of that, they're more Christ-like now. And one of the people I really want to commend is my friend Martin. Martin and Theresa moved here from Ireland, and it hasn't been easy. Martin spoke to me on several occasions about his challenges being in London, and I really thought on a couple of occasions that maybe they'll go back. But they didn't. They stayed. They persevered. And they overcame. I just want to say I admire you for that, how you handle the challenges, and encourage you to keep fighting on. That's how we overcome. A month ago we went sharing with the brothers, and Yuri and I, we went sharing together. And this was about a week before Yuri was going to go into the ministry as an intern. And he was sharing with me, if it's okay, thank you, some of the struggles and some of the doubts that he had been having. Because here's the thing a lot of people don't understand. If you never have doubts, it's because you're not in the battle. If you're in the battle, if you take on the challenges, that's when you're going to start having doubts. You're going to be asking yourself, is this really what I'm supposed to do? Am I really supposed to give even if I have nothing? I'm leaving everything I have. That's when doubts start hitting you. You know, Satan tempted Jesus with doubts. If you are the Son of God. When we moved here, I moved here a year and a half ago, the end of December. I moved here by myself. I mean, I flew over first by myself, and a week later Marie and the kids came. And I had my doubts here and there. I was like, man, I'm giving up everything. Have I gone crazy? What am I doing here? No one does this. Everyone's saying, you're giving up a lot, you're losing a lot. Have I flipped? And then I flew from Curacao to Germany, arrived in Germany, got out of the plane, and I saw all the beautiful Western European weather in the middle of December. All the rain, the snow, all the clouds, all the darkness. Like, what have I done? Is this what I'm going to be living in? Is this what I traded what I had for? And things go through your mind. And so Yuri also had doubts. Because he gave up everything he had to go into the ministry. And it just hit me. If you're in the battle, if you give up everything you have, you will have doubts. But if you overcome, you will be stronger. If you've never had doubts, if you've never been challenged, it's because you are not sold out. And I challenge you to become sold out, to live by faith and not by what you see. See, sometimes we want to be submarine Christians. We're under the water, like James Bond 007 in his private submarine, and we have what you call it, the periscope up. We just circle. Okay, close is clear. It's safe. Now I'm going to surface. It's Easter. I'm going to go to church. Oh, now it's Christmas. I'm a Christmas submarine Christian. Now I'm going to surface, and now I'm going to go to church, and everyone's going to see me. I'm going to give my heart now because it is safe. I'm going to share my faith now because this guy looks really wimpy, and I think I can take him on. I think I'm going to give now because I feel comfortable and it's not really going to be a sacrifice. So that's why I can give comfortably now. Submarine Christian. It's not in the Bible. If you're a submarine Christian, you're going to stay in your submarine after you die. Down there and not up there. We got to make a decision what we're going to do. 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Finally, we've got to sink our teeth into the grace of God. And this is the awesome thing about God. no matter how lukewarm you've been, no matter how uncommitted you've been, no matter how deep you've been in your submarine, if you just decide to repent, you'll be forgiven.
Come on, Mike.
Are we sinking our teeth into God's grace? 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7. To keep me from becoming conceited because of these surpassingly great revelations, there was given me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan, to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Is God's grace sufficient for us?
Wow.
What are we running after? What consumes us and makes us forget the most valuable thing that anyone could ever have, which is God's grace? See, in this rat race that we live in, it's very easy to forget about God's grace, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're consumed about the finances, and we need to be responsible with our finances. You know, you have the Sermon on the Mount, and then you have the Sermon on the Amount, which is about our finances. But that's a title Ole can use down the road somewhere. we are, obviously we need to take responsibility for our kids. And it's only natural that as parents, if we are parents, that we worry about our kids. If we were not, we're in even more trouble. It's only natural to want to have a good income, to want to have that promotion at work, to get that job, or to get a better job. Those things are natural, but the problem is when those things consume us so much that we forget about God's grace. Now, it was awesome studying the last couple of studies with Brendan and Hedworth. Now, I've repented from calling him Airport because for the longest time I thought his name was Airport. But I know now it's not. But one of the studies I was involved with was counting the costs with them. For them to really understand the magnitude of the decision that they were taking, the importance, and the consequences. Because see, when you get baptized, oh, I've made it. No, you're just beginning. See, the Jews, when they got out of Egypt and they crossed the Red Sea, they said, we made it! Buddy, you are just starting. It's just beginning now. I graduated, I made it! No, you didn't. Now it's just starting. Now you're going to be working, and then you're going to be wishing you could go back to college.
Yeah.
You know, people are really funny. When you're small, you can't wait to get big. And then when you're in high school, you can't wait to go to university because you want to have freedom. And then when you're in university, you can't wait to start working because you have money. When you're working, you can wait to retire so you have nothing to do. And when you retire, you can wait to get young again so you can work and go to school. We do not make sense. But what does make sense is the grace of God. How often do we reminisce on the blessings God has given us? How often do you think about what your life would be like if you were not a disciple of Christ? Do you see the things that God has transformed in your life? If you don't see them, then maybe one or two reasons. That one reason would be, indeed, God has not transformed your life because you haven't given your heart to God. Or number two, He has transformed your life, but you've lost your gratitude. You know, nowadays, there are so many terms to identify different kinds of depressions and mental illnesses, right? And one of the ones that I often hear is ADD. Attention Deficit Disorder. Well, I think there's a new one that we need to identify, and that is SADD. spiritual attention deficit disorder. And that applies to all of us at certain points in time. We've all been there. You know, we get discipled, we get help, we get warned, and we're like, yeah, no problem. And the next minute, what do we do? Exactly what we were not advised to do. And we're like, God, where are you? Hello, I'm here. You just need to repent of your SADD. And that will make sense. But this morning, I want to challenge all of us to reminisce on God's grace. I do it often. I ask myself, what would my life be like if I were not a Christian? I talk about it with my children, with Dylan and Kiara. I say, what would I be like if I were not a Christian? 2 weeks ago, and we live on the 6th or 7th floor, we heard some screaming and crying coming from right across the police station. We went out to see, and it was a mother screaming at her child, and the child running away from her, crying and screaming himself. And at first I just got really indignant at the mom. But then someone else took the child away, comforted him, and the mom was just sitting on the car, and you could see she was overwhelmed, and she was frustrated, she was hurt. And I said, you know what? That is me, not as a woman of course, but or that is us without Christ. We run after things that seem so awesome, so much fun, so much pleasure, but in the end they just leave and lead to bitterness, emptiness, anger, frustration. But with God's grace, we can be spared from all of that. So sink your teeth into God's grace. Sink your teeth into love for your brothers and sisters. And sink your teeth into God's purpose for your life. Embrace hardship. Embrace suffering. Don't bail out. Give it meaning. Give it purpose. And you will be transformed. More than you can imagine at this moment. Sink your teeth into what's good and godly, nothing else. Thank you.